since like the one morning, I was the way their house is like their master suites over there. Rosie and her. So I said, "I want to hear babies." One day I went up, she's like staring at me like this. Somebody's trying to break it. I lost it. You know, can you imagine somebody in their face? Yeah, waking up twice a night. But sorry, God bless her. She's adamant about breastfeeding, and she is doing it. Twins.
How are the twins? Are they good?
Well fed.
Good.
So I was getting up with her. Towards the end, if I only heard one of them, I didn't get up. She had to start doing it. I would get up and feed twice because they eat every 2 minutes. And then trying to deal with Rose. I took her to a couple of appointments.
Good job. Great job.
It's really sad.
Somebody embarrassed me again by doing cards, but I never get around to doing
And
it.
then be fair, she woke up out of her she just stays there.
Your presence.
Just like a teenager. Is she okay? Is she?
That's what the people say. They go back to being like kids. Yeah.
But she was,
Hi, Michael.
weird.
Happy holidays to you.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Let me go put my-
Michael, I was supposed to ask you, is there a say yes envelope? This is it?
Yeah.
This is it?
Got my phone blowing.
Okay.
Let's-
It's year end, you never know whether one of the people are paying on their pledge or what, so.
My phone is blowing.
So we're talking about how we turn that into the weekend of faith and hope, and do all of that. And the idea of the whole Sunday school thing just had me thinking all day long.
They want to do their first preach on Sunday. With the live mix. I'm talking about it. I mean,
Okay.
It was blowing out. Yeah. So thanks for being on. I'm behaving.
I couldn't behave, and I have never heard anybody respond that way. How are you doing, babe? And you gotta remember that.
They had John here, so he proud. He put her in charge.
Who is this?
John here.
Yes.
Yeah, she was supposed to make sure.
We heard how
Oh,
is John?
okay. Oh, yeah.
He's doing okay. He called yesterday, and he was kind of struggling. So he may or may not. I was going to call him, but out of executive session, he may not be able to take a call.
Almost ready? You waiting for me? Oh, Lord, you can be waiting a long time. I'm almost there. I had a bag here someplace. Perfect. Oh, cool. All right, Michael, you want to call the roll? We'll get the meeting started.
Ms. Shakarian,
Here.
Mr. Corrigan,
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Here.
Ms. Fryer,
Here.
and Mr. Parker.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the Joint Finance and Human Resource Committee meeting of 11/14/2023. There's no omissions or additions. I move for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian,
Well,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Our next order is the regular board meeting of 11/16. There is nothing else. We will go ahead and,
I have a second.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, I move to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation with.
Second.
Mr. Carrion,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Fryer.
Yes.
And Mr. Parker.
Yes.
And we're just moving to the conference room.
Yeah, you can. Should be fine. I'll use the mic where somebody stays here. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I forgot to take it.
That's all right. Okay.
How you doing? Surviving the campaign?
Usually that's like. Oh, awesome. It's also, we do it every year, it's always like this pain. He said you were, and then Christmas Eve is always my colleague, he said you were. Christmas Eve.
I think the review does not charge. It just. I'll grab one. Okay, this is hosted. I'm glad to hear that conversation.
So we're gonna.
Come on now, come on.
to celebrate the Feast of the Three Kings down there.
Right.
It's a
You're gonna
very
do great.
heavy Hispanic holiday,
Gotcha.
because in the Spanish culture, the kids, Christmas is very, very.
Oh, that's great.
You do not get gifts till the Three Kings came. Makes sense. So that's what the party starts. Party starts.
Gotcha. I got you.
So, yeah. Ain't that fun? I'm so excited.
I left
You're
my-
going to Belize.
Personal
My
iPad
first time ever spending it
on
in
the
the
table
islands.
at the party with the school board and
Oh,
it got stolen.
Never really go.
Yeah, and ended up in Richmond Heights somewhere. I find my iPad, but we never
You guys still
recovered
have
it.
so much-
Oh my.
I had a Syrian,
Like
so
on that floor we were on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I borrowed a book
Yes, you will.
and set it on
I will
top
try.
of the book and it's my personal iPad in one of those sort of an
Right,
OtterBox type thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it was gone when I came, I had security go right back when I realized it was already
There,
gone.
yes.
So,
Thanks, Director, for everything. Yeah, a motion to resume the board meeting?
Mr. Carrion?
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan?
yes,
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Fryer?
Yes.
And Mr. Parker?
Yes.
This time, I'm just gonna briefly talk a little bit about what's been going on the past month, even though I haven't been around too much. I know there's been a lot going on with the Cleveland Reads and the celebration and everything that we're doing here at Cleveland Public Library and everything we have done. I just want to recognize everything that is going on, and it's been a busy, busy year.
Mm.
And I know there's a lot more to come next year, but I would like to thank everyone for all the work that they're doing on behalf of CPL. Director?
Yeah, I have three things that I really want to bring forward here. The first is, where's Mr. Skurdick? In your packet, you have a little article about the CleveNet app. Yes. And John, you come to the,
Front and center, John, front and center.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of brief the board on the app. I kind of put together a timeline of what has transpired. You can read through the article a little bit. So in April, Jamie Mason, our chief of CleveNet, he received information from Cersei executives about a concern related to the Solus app, which is CleveNet's mobile app for patron account management. Cersei initially expressed confidence in resolving the issues at that time, but on November 24th, both CleveNet and several American Cersei libraries were unexpectedly taken by surprise when the Solus app was completely frozen, preventing patrons from accessing it. Jamie Mason probably informed all of the CleveNet directors about this through email. Cleveland Public Library communicated this information to patrons, but due to the holiday, it kind of fell off the website, so we wish it would have stayed up. Despite the app's challenges, all of the libraries maintain full access through their websites, and patrons can use just notifying our community about what's been happening. And thanks to Tana, she now has on the front of the website an alert allowing our patrons to know what to do and what has happened. And also, you said patron point
Library card holders.
to all of the library card holders, also and social media. So just wanted to brief the board what's happening, and we're constantly working on this to find a solution. Do you have any questions?
how big is this the outfit that's fighting with Cersei Dynex?
Yeah, it's getting to be kind of ugly. They're going back and forth. I'm not sure how many people work at Solus.
Solus is a smaller outfit, certainly than Cersei. But I mean, they're not small in general because they had the contract work for almost all of the large library systems across the country. So,
So it's not just us experiencing this.
oh no, I mean, the
LA
day it
County was a
happened,
big one.
yeah,
Right away.
you know, I could have brought this to the board earlier. Our community didn't respond in the same way. I mean, I'm on a listserv with all the library systems and the directors of those library systems, and they were really angry when this happened. I mean, it's akin to all of us when all of a sudden we turn our TVs on and Channel 3 doesn't work anymore because they're having a fight between it.
Right.
It was the same thing. And so everybody was upset. And, but, you know, we got a few complaints. We were able to direct them to
Yeah, the different avenues, because
the different avenues.
all of the information is available. It's just once you get used to the Cleveland app, it was a wonderful way to do quickly, and people get used to the way they do things.
Yeah.
Do you think they might find a truce anytime in the near future? That's
Those
so
two,
funny. You
they're
said
done.
that about Channel 3. I was thinking the same thing. I went
Yeah.
to go watch something. I was like, huh?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, but they have decided they're done.
For
Oh.
sure.
These two, they're
Okay.
done. So we're gonna have to build a new app.
Yeah, and there are already 3 places, and luckily because Cleveland's so big, there is a lot of interest in working alongside of us because of how many users we have, and we're one of the key people across the country that people want to get these items.
It's going to be a big project for us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, secondary, strategic topics. We're not gonna bring the dashboard to you today because, board and the committee got the board to look at the strategic topics. And we have a calendar for next year rather.
Good afternoon, trustees. So in front of you and also on the screen is the schedule. As promised, the Strategic Planning Committee, we surveyed the Strategic Planning Committee to make its recommendation to the full board of the schedule of where we want to take deeper dives each month. So in front of you is that full schedule.
This looks good.
Great. Thanks.
All right, and third, I was lucky to be joined by trustees Carrion and Parker and as we won the Isaiah Award.
Yes.
Right? So the Isaiah Award is from the American Jewish Committee, and it is given to a nonprofit. It's been given over 60 years that is committed to human relations and giving back to the community. And so this is our award, and I will
Quite
pass
an
this
honor.
around, or if anybody wants it, or we can just see it, or whatever. So
Excellent.
it's great work on behalf of the staff.
And the director gave a great acceptance speech, so
Yes.
very good, well done. So,
Trustee Corrigan was there in support of me as I don't know what I was saying, but I kept on moving. And then finally, we have one last thing from the director's report. Trustee Rodriguez mentioned Cleveland Reads. If I can get Erica and Marina to stand up. I mean, so many people, and Shanice.
Oh, yeah.
I guess, Shanice, you were just in charge. So all 3 of these had, no, stand up. No, Shanice was
Come on.
coordinating all the big picture, getting the money and everything. All the programs. And then Marina was doing the day-to-day in the trenches warfare that it needed to be to get everybody on board and getting the numbers situated. And so we just wanted to show you a brief video from the celebration bash and
Oh, my
the
God.
party.
And it was cold that day from what I hear.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was
out of
cold and
town.
rainy, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, it was cold and rainy.
I heard it was very, yeah.
Right.
So Randy Weingarten from the American Federation of Teachers was there, and she said, I have been to many cities, but I have never seen a parade for literacy
Wow.
ever. So
What were your crowd estimates, especially compared to the kickoff?
so the kickoff, I think we had like 2,500, and this one was 5,000.
Wow, beautiful.
So
That's awesome.
all right.
And that'll end the director's part.
Yeah, before you-
Yeah.
Were you gonna sing that library song?
I have.
It touched you.
It did. I haven't heard that song. And so there's in the 60s and 70s, there was a show, I guess, and there used to be a library song tied to it. And I heard it like by the children's librarians in the early 80s when I was as a page or whatever. And I hadn't heard it since. And this one of the gentlemen at the
Wexner.
Isaiah Words, got up and started to sing it and sang the song. He goes, because it meant so much to him. He remembered as a young kid, and he went back and found the song or whatever. So I've got to find that and share it with the staff. I haven't. It's called the library song or whatever, and it's from a TV show in the early '80s. So we'll find it and share it. Oh, Tana will find it and share it. She's got it.
We need a jingle.
Yeah.
It wasn't at all like a rap.
No, it was very different.
It was something Dale Evans and Roy Rogers could have proudly sung.
I think we have two communications, Director.
Yeah, the first one is from a Shelley Jarrett Bromberg, and she's actually a retired professor from Miami University. And she said, "Dear Alexander and Marcy," these are staff members, and she said, "I just wanted to let you know that your outstanding work to help us connect Annette Pereira for a Zoom call was successful. Because you thought of everything from the closest library to a private room, Ms. Pereira was able to answer all the lawyer's questions. I heard from the lawyer today that she was able to get Ms. Pereira's birth certificate. This means that for the first time in many years, Ms. Pereira can now get an ID and her Social Security card. She will be able to do everything from opening a bank account to getting on a plane. She has not been home to Puerto Rico in decades. It is the dedication of public librarians like you that make our society one of the best. I've lived in countries where there was no public library. I cannot express to you how much I value your work and your service. You never hesitated to help me. Rather, you were on the case, as we say, immediately. Thank you again, and I wish you both a wonderful holidays."
What branch are they in?
Yeah, that's good.
What branch?
I think it was actually to ops, because I think it was Alex in the ops department and Marcy at Huff that were the folks who were working with them.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then the second one is from Melanie Vickerman, and she sent this email to both me and the mayor. She said, "Dear Mayor Bibb and Mr. Thomas, my family and I were at the Cleveland Reeds Victory Bash this past Saturday. Had such a wonderful time. From the very first, we enjoyed the program, and I can say that although my children already like reading, they were definitely motivated to read more and more often by the thought of going to the library to spin the prize wheel when they reach certain accomplishment markers. When the library notified us that there would be a downtown celebration reaching our citywide goal, I wanted to go for several reasons. Certainly, it seemed like a day filled with fun plans, but I also knew my kids had a big part in reaching the goal, and it seemed like an awesome idea that I could be there in person to hear the total read. Throughout the day, we were impressed several times by how we were treated. My husband Josh and I guessed that it might be a school bus that would take us downtown from a nearby library, and that would have been fine. It was very nice, though, not to have to find and pay for downtown parking. Boy, were we surprised when Mr. Limo showed up. Everyone who rode the bus with us was equally taken aback and made to feel special. A second moment of surprise was when we walked through the doors into the main auditorium and were greeted by a man who handed us a bag and told us to take as many books as we wanted. Wait, what? Did I just hear him correctly? I thought I could mention even more little moments of surprise. We've lived out of the country for most of our kids' lives, so I looked at this event as a way to help them know a bit more about our city and our culture as Americans. They've never heard a marching band in person. They've never heard speeches by leaders in the community, and they've only been downtown once, I believe. We have plans to go downtown again soon to let them explore Tower City and the downtown library, which to little bookworms seem like a castle for books. Our kids thoroughly enjoyed roller skating and taking a ride in the bumper cars, and I got such a kick out watching my little guy, Ian, who I tease as a fruit fly, discovered the table filled with bags of apples and oranges. He grabbed the bags of apples to put in his bag, starting to walk away, then turned back around and decided to put a bag of oranges too. Josh commented to how impressed he was the kindness of everyone he talked with, and he didn't just mean the workers. Over and over again, we had small conversations with good-natured people near us. As we all passed our information, this is the line for chicken. You need to get a ticket from Mother there, and just friendly conversation as we all waited together in lines. We had such a nice day. So thank you so much for initiating and organizing this
That's
event.
so lovely.
Melody.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's communications.
Thank you. And now, because there was no quorum at the Joint Finance and Human Research Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 19th, 2023, I move to temporarily suspend the regulations of the Board of Trustees in Article 9 and 10, requiring referral of resolutions to committees to consider the following resolutions.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr.
Yes.
And I just want to add a little gift from our AV folks now. Now the resolution will
look at
actually be
that.
on.
Get out.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Excellent.
That's fair.
So you want the finance committee to start?
I guess we better. They beat us to it. We're now gonna move it to the Finance Committee report. Thank you.
Exhibit 1 is a resolution to accept gifts for the month of November, whereas the board received gifts of money, library service, materials, and technology resources, and miscellaneous non-monetary gifts from citizens from time to time. Be resolved that the gifts described in the gift report for November 2023 be accepted upon the conditions connected with said gifts in accordance with Section 3375.40K of the Ohio Revised Code. So moved.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
And I always want to make sure that there was a very large building and repair fund restricted gift. And I've forgotten who that, that was earlier this year. I'm sorry. It was just the Lockwood Thompson gift this month. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll go to Exhibit 2. Exhibit 2 is a resolution to accept a grant from United Way of Greater Cleveland for the Family Space Program. Whereas on October 20, 2022, the board accepted a grant from United Way to provide supportive programming by implementing and administering the Family Space Program. Whereas United Way, the lead partner organization, received funding from Cuyahoga County's Department of Health and Human Services Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, to establish and implement the Family Space Program. As whereas the library is invited to continue this program in 2024 by hosting and staffing the program locations that will provide safe, accessible, and welcoming places that prioritize the needs of families. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Cleveland Public Library, pursuant to the authority set forth in RC 3375.40K, hereby accepts the grant in the amount of $23,713.40 from United Way of Greater Cleveland for deposit into the Early Literacy Fund account 258-046-46100-28801, and be it further resolved that the executive director, CEO, or his designee is authorized to enter into and execute such agreements and instruments as may be necessary or appropriate to effectuate the terms and conditions of this resolution, including for those amounts in excess of $75,000, which agreements and instruments shall be subject to the approval of the library's Director of Legal Affairs. So moved.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 3 is a resolution to accept a gift from the Family Trust of Ronald G. and Joyce T. Sroof. Am I saying their names right? Representatives of the Family Trust of Ronald G. and Joyce T. Sroof recently contacted the library on November 10th, 2023, to notify the library that Mr. Ronald Sroof, who passed away May 15th, 2016, at age 83, and his wife Joyce T. Sroof, who passed away on October 19th, 2022, at age 85, bequeathed an approximately $50,000 to the Cleveland Public Library through their family trust. The bequest was directed to be used for the public library's Talking Book Services program. Whereas Mrs. Joyce Sroof was a resident of Gahannock, Ohio, and a patron of the Ohio Library for the blind and print disabled since 2009. As a former English teacher with the Columbus City Schools, She taught countless students during a long career, with teaching said to have been her life's mission. She was a passionate reader with a particular fondness for classical literature. She also loved to travel, cook, and sew. Whereas Mr. Sroof had been a retired teacher, administrator, and personnel for the Columbus City Schools, and a former deacon of the BB Chapel Church in Ripley, Ohio, and the United States Korean War Marine veteran. Whereas the entire public library system, and particularly the Ohio Library for the Blind and Print Disabled, are grateful for Mr. and Mrs. Sroof's honoring literacy in their planned giving, thereby supporting future generations to access material and services at OLBPD. Whereas on January 16th, the board celebrated the 60th birthday of the library by making, in 1929, the 60th celebration, by making it an occasion for requests for donations to an endowment for work with the blind, thus formally establishing the Endowment for the Blind Fund. Given the restrictions on this request, the Library Administration recommends investing this gift in the Endowment for the Blind Fund. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board, pursuant to the authority set forth in RC 3375.40K, hereby accepts this generous gift from the Family Trust of Ronald and Joyce Sroof to be restricted for the Ohio Library for the Blind and Print Disabled, and deposit the endowment into the Endowment for the Blind Fund account number 202-046-46100, restricted gifts. Be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees expresses its heartfelt gratitude for this generous gift and directs that a copy of this resolution be sent to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Sroof in an expression of a sympathy and appreciation from this board. So moved.
Second?
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
It's a good time to remind everybody that we basically do these services for every county in Ohio, all 88 counties. And so this is an appreciation that we're very glad to spread the wealth with, so to speak. Exhibit 4 is a resolution authorizing amendment to agreement for design services and amending the project budget for the new Martin Luther King Jr. branch. Whereas on June 18, 2019, the board authorized an agreement with SOLIL Office and the J. Kurtz Architects in the amount of $1,456,525 for architectural engineering services for the new MLK branch. And the library and architects entered into an agreement of $1.4 million on November 15th, 2019. And whereas on September 17th, 2020, October 21, 2021, November 2021, February 15, 2022, and October 20, 2022, this board authorized the library to amend the agreement with the architects to revise the design, to bring the project within budget, and to address certain redesign of certain elements, increasing the total fee to $2,109,360. And whereas on February 15, 2022, the board approved the total project budget for the construction of the new MLK branch, which budget was amended by this board on May 16, 2023, shown in Exhibit A. Whereas due to an extended construction schedule, it's been necessary to further amend the agreement with J. Hertz Architects to allow for additional construction administration services of approximately 20 hours per week for roughly 40 more weeks. Whereas the library desires to amend the agreement to include the expanded, and Kurtz has submitted a proposal in the amount of $155,750 for the additional services, which would increase the J. Kurtz total fee to $2,265,110. Whereas the board finds that the increase is fair and reasonable, whereas the chief operating officer recommends the board the amended project budget is shown as Exhibit A, and we're resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the executive director, CEO, or his designee to negotiate and execute an amendment to the agreement with J. Kurtz Architects in an amount not to exceed $155,750, the expenditure being charged to construction tax exempt fund account 402-7670-705-55300, construction improvements, increasing the agreement to a total cost of $2,265,110 in such form as approved by the Director of Legal Affairs. Go ahead, John.
Well, as stated, while we're requesting an increase in the fees to the design team on the project, we're not yet requesting an increase to the project budget. So the money's being essentially borrowed from within the project to pay the architect while we accumulate some increase in costs, which will be presented to the board in 2024. The original construction period for the project was estimated at 14 months. That was extended to 20 months through negotiation with the architect at no additional fee. So we did get those additional 6 months. The project's gone even further. And so this will be to pay for the construction administration to the completion dates. The architect did originally propose fees for their consultants. We negotiated that down from $220,000, agreeing that we should all take ownership in the schedule overruns that we've experienced. And I will say that we're in negotiations with the developer for who owns the cost, the schedule overruns, and the associated costs. So while certainly no promises, the fact that the library is taking additional fees for the construction administration period will be put on the table when we negotiate the final costs with the developer. And then the only thing I wanted to note was that the total project budget is accurate, $20.4 million. That's what we've spent on the project, but that doesn't reflect the library sale of our current property for $5.2 million. So while $20.4 million is a total accurate project cost, the library's expense is $5.2 million less due to sales of our current property and air rights over the new property.
So there's a possibility of recapturing some of this back with the developer.
No promises, but we're certainly going to put that on the table.
And you're not surprised to find out that I'm identifying this as architecture and design fees now making 10% instead of our sort of golden of trying to be.
Well, these are definitely higher. We're at 13.2% of the project budget, almost 17% of the construction cost. So this is not where we'd like to be, but it's where we're at today, and we need the architect to stay with us to the finish line.
Yep. It's all right. The other ones, we're all doing much better with the architects than we are in this one,
Yeah.
so appreciate it.
Well, this one, I mean, the delay, I mean, we can just put this on the record. The delay is much from the developer's delay, right? You know, we've had a difficulty having any kind of just fair kind of compensation for their delays, but it's definitely a developer's delay.
And how are we looking project schedule-wise?
Yeah, the current schedule shows substantial completion in August, which would put our fit out probably past Labor Day. And to the director's comments, there's an ongoing claim from our project manager, Panzica Construction, to the developer's costs, claiming that the developer's inability to close in the lofts portion of the building. If you've been on Euclid, you'll have seen the
Yeah.
second through 11th floors. The glass has been going in the last few weeks, but for a long time it wasn't. Our contractor was unable to hang drywall inside the library due to rain coming into the building through the lofts. And so that's some of the delays the director is alluding to. And so our construction manager has to file a claim against us because we owe the contract, but we view that as a developer-related delay. So there's going to have to be a negotiation on the various items.
Okay, move approval of Exhibit 4.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 5 is a resolution establishing project budget and approving guaranteed maximum price amendment with R.L. Hill Management for the Glenville branch. Whereas on March 16, 2023, the board authorized the library to enter a construction manager at risk agreement with R.L. Hill Management for the renovation expansion of the Glenville branch. The library executed the agreement on March 28, 2023, and whereas R.L. Hill has completed procurement of subcontractor construction bids for the work as contemplated by the agreement, has prepared a GM price proposal. Whereas the guaranteed maximum price proposal for the Glenville branch is $6,440,000, and does not include the cost of professional design services, permitting, and other purchases the library will make directly outside of the GMP. Whereas the library, in consultation, R.L. Hill prepared a budget for the Glenville branch project, which consists of the guaranteed maximum price, an owner's contingency fund, an estimated cost for furniture, expenditures, and equipment, the architect fees to be approved by the board, and the owner direct costs, all of which are set forth in Exhibit A to this resolution. Be it resolved that the board authorizes executive director CEO as designated to accept the guaranteed maximum price proposal and enter into an agreement with and and execute an amendment to the agreement between the Cleveland Public Library and RL Management, Inc., approving the subcontract packages and establishing the guaranteed maximum price for Glenville branch in the amount of $6,440,240, which shall be charged to the Building and Repair Fund account 401-74805-55300-11748 construction improvements. Be it further resolved, the Executive Director, CEO, or his designee is authorized to establish an owner's contingency fund for the Glenville branch project, the amount set forth in Exhibit A to this resolution, and to make expenditures and enter contracts in excess of $75,000 to pay the costs resulting from changes and additions to the project, which may be made in the future by the library, which are not included in the GMP. The library shall report monthly to the board on expenditures from the owner's contingency fund. And be it further resolved that the board approves the total project budget for the Glenville branch project as set forth in Exhibit A to this resolution, which expenditures shall be charged to the Building Repair Fund account 401-74805-55300-11748 construction improvements, and authorizes the Executive Director, CEO, or designee to move forward in taking the steps necessary to complete the Glenville branch project and execute such instruments or documents as may be necessary or appropriate to effectuate the terms of this resolution, including those in excess of $75,000, which are payable from the project budget established herein. Whereas further resolved be that the board authorizes the Chief Operating Officer to allocate the budget amounts as set forth in Exhibit A for the owner's contingency funds, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and owner direct costs as needed, provide that such reallocations do not increase the overall budget approved for each individual project. So moved.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian?
Yes.
Mr. Horgan?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Fryer?
Yes.
And Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about this, John, in terms of.
Sure. It occurs to me that all of our other Group 1 project GMPs and project budgets were established in 2021 and 2022. So just as a refresher and for the benefit of the board members who maybe haven't been here for a GMP, we have the architect. We go through our architectural selection process with fees, which the board approves. We go through our construction manager selection process and their pre-construction fees, which the board approves. But then the big one in terms of project costs is when we bring the GMP amendment. This is essentially the construction contract. We backfill in those already approved design and pre-construction fees, and then we put forward the furniture and direct cost budget. So that's what you're seeing today. For this particular project, please recall that there's a $3 million donation from the Mandel Foundation towards execution of the project. So the $8.189 million bottom line cost for the project, the library's actual cost will be $3 million less than that. I generally bring a 5% owner's construction contingency at the time of a budget approval. For this one, I've bumped it up to over $7.5 million because I would like to execute a complete replacement of the roof, which during assessments for the new mechanical equipment we decided was needed. It's not yet included in the construction contract, so I'm kind of anticipating the first change order to include the roof. It's fully designed by the architect, and we do have competitive bid prices on it. The furniture budget likewise is slightly larger than we would normally take on a dollars per square foot basis, and that's to accommodate for the enhanced technological equipment that we plan for the innovation learning centers.
And the only other question I had, John, is that in terms of the look from the street and from the outside, the library is not really changing.
It's changing very much.
Okay, 'cause I think it's good to include some of those.
Okay,
pictures.
I'll share the rendering separately. The front of the building is going to have a total new envelope.
Okay.
So those of you who have been out to the branch can kind of picture those pillow skylights, which have been problematic almost since day one, I understand, and are certainly leaking now. The new approach is going to be a raised roof with a vertical facade. It's going to have perforated metal panels over a curtain wall system, and so it's going to be kind of diffused light, which at nighttime is going to shine out kind of like a lantern. So it's going to be a very attractive building. The front of the building will change in appearance from the St. Clair streetscape, though.
Okay, I just think it's worth at least showing one of those when we do a collection of documents.
No, I'll
like
start.
this.
Thank you. I'll start including those. And then the one item I did skip over that I do want to emphasize. I know there's a lot of documents attached here, but if you go through the first page of GMP proposal itself, you can see the breakdown of cost by trade. You can see the competitive bids we got on every single one of the packages through our construction manager. And then the inclusion participation is shown at the bottom of the bid tab. Our project goals were exceeded for all of the categories we were seeking, including minority business participation, women-owned business participation, small business participation. And I'm glad to say, although the library did not set a goal, the project manager has brought forth over 11% of veteran-owned business spend. So our goals are exceeded. That's shown on section 3 of the GMP document.
And this is going to start straight away first quarter of 24 too. so-
Last day of the branch will be open, assuming contracts approved, will be January 13th. We'll be in move management for a few weeks for a groundbreaking on February 3rd and look to reopen the branch in late spring of 2025.
And just since he's here, Peter Roth is the branch manager at Glenville, and will be saying bye to all the community members here a little bit.
I'm not saying goodbye to the community members. The building's closed, but we're still in the neighborhood.
So
Good.
Yeah,
What's the closest branch?
that's what I was going to ask.
It'll be Langston Hughes and Collinwood is where we're directing patrons.
Okay, all right.
but and Peter has said that to me, that he's got a great children's librarian that is already started to make visits out into the community, and she's going to continue those visits even through the break.
She will, and our PSA, Shante, and our new PSA, Sarah, are both also making inroads with the community and will be there as well.
Thank you.
Thank
Move
you.
approval. Oh, we already voted.
Recorded.
Okay, good. Exhibit 6 is the resolution authorizing amendment to the agreement with Vocon Partners LLC for design services, amending project budget for the Brooklyn branch. Whereas on November 19, 2020, the board authorized executive to enter into agreement with Vocon Partners in an amount not to exceed $186,951 for the design of the renovation of the Brooklyn branch. And whereas as a result of schedule extensions by the construction manager for unforeseen conditions and for architectural bulletins, which Vocon developed at the library's direction to incorporate scope changes for roof alterations, drainage improvements, and replacement of the driveway, it's become necessary to extend the period of construction administration. Whereas the library desires to amend the agreement with Vocon to provide for extended construction administration services during the extended schedule. And whereas Vocon has proposed an additional fee not to exceed $31,875 for the extended construction administration services. Because there are $10,000 remaining in Vocon's design contingency, the contract can be increased by $21,875, bringing Vocon's architect fees to a total amount not to exceed $208,826. And whereas the board finds the proposed fee increase fair and reasonable, whereas the chief operating officer recommends the board approve amending the project budget to include this reallocation of $21,875 from furniture, fixtures, and equipment to the architect's fees. Resolved that the board authorizes the executive director, CEO, or is designated to negotiate and execute an amendment to the agreement with Vocon Partners LLC for design services to the Brooklyn branch upon such terms and conditions as are approved by the library director of legal affairs, increasing the architect fee to a total contract amount not to exceed $208,826, which amount shall be charged to the construction tax exempt fund account 402722505-55300 construction improvements. And be it further resolved that the project budget for the Brooklyn branch be amended as shown in Exhibit A to this resolution. So moved.
Second,
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Gordon,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
And for consistency, obviously, the increase in the architect fees here still keeps them below 10%.
Mhm.
It does 7.5% of project budget, 9.4% of the construction budget. So we were able to keep this one under 10%. This is very similar to the J. Kurtz amendment in the sense that we're not asking for a project budget increase. We're essentially reapportioning money within the already approved budget to pay for the ad services for the architect. This project is close to completion. We've already penciled in an opening date of March 3rd, 2nd or 3rd.
Wait a second.
So I don't expect to have to come back to kind of recoup those fees. We're almost in closeout mode on this project.
Great. Exhibit 7 is a resolution authorizing extension of current agreement with Cleveland State University for America Reads Tutoring Services and authorizing a new agreement to tutoring services from March 2024 through February 2025. Whereas the library's contracts with Cleveland State University provide student tutors for American Reads at various branches since 2012. And whereas American Reads tutors children in grades kindergarten through 8th grade by providing tutoring and homework help. Whereas on December 15, 2022, the board authorized the executive director, CEO, or his designee to enter an agreement with Cleveland State to provide tutoring services at various branches, January 31, 2023 through December 31, in an amount not to exceed $78,000. Whereas CSU has proposed to extend the term of the current agreement through February 29, 2024 at no additional cost to the library. Whereas Cleveland State is also proposing into a new agreement for tutoring services at 10 to 13 library branches, including one remote group of tutors, for term from March 1st, 2024 through February 28th, 2025 at the current contract amount of $78,212. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby authorizes the executive director, CEO, or his designee to enter into an agreement to the current agreement with Cleveland State for the America Reads Tutoring Services in order to extend the term of the agreement until February 29, 2024 at no additional cost to the library. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the executive director, CEO, or his designee to enter into a new agreement with Cleveland State for America Reads Tutoring Services from March 1, 2024 through February 28, 2025. The cost not to exceed $78,212 of such expenditures to be charged to the Founders Fund account 203-80103-53710 professional services, which agreement or instrument shall be subject to the approval of the Director of Legal Affairs. So moved.
Second.
I just wanted to share, we're very grateful for our partnership, our relationship with CSU. Our families in the community really take advantage of tutoring. For this year, they've serviced over 6,000 students in person. They've hired roughly 80 tutors to tutor throughout all of our branch locations. So we look forward to continuing our partnership with them. And also, we're going to start to highlight, outreach will work with marketing to highlight the services and the engagement that they have with the students in our community.
Because I know Cleveland State used to always they used to have in-house tutoring over at Cleveland State for children. Are these teachers that are coming out to our libraries, or are these students that are in the educational field that are doing the tutoring?
So the students attend CSU and they come out to our branch locations for tutoring.
Like an internship type deal or whatever?
Yeah, and then we also offer virtual services as well. And I'm on the invite so I can see when the students log in. So we still have online engagement as well.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr.
Thank
Corrigan,
you.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
And throughout next year, I'll offer some times for the board if they just want to go and see the tutors tutoring some of the students and see how that's good.
That's wonderful.
Exhibit A, a resolution to temporarily increase the executive director's authority to execute contracts, whereas on September 21, 2023, the board authorized the executive director as CEO or designee to execute on behalf of the board all contracts, agreements, and documents and other instruments necessary to conduct routine business in the library for amounts up to and including the amounts set forth in Ohio Revised Code Section 91.7, which amount currently stands at $75,000. Whereas the board desires to temporarily increase the value of contracts and agreements that the executive director, CEO, or designee may execute on behalf of the Cleveland Public Library from $75,000 to $120,000 for the next 30 days. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the board temporarily authorizes the executive director, CEO, designee, or his designee for 30 days from the date of this resolution to execute on behalf of the Board of Library Trustees all contracts, agreements, and other instruments necessary to conduct the business of the Cleveland Public Library for amounts up to and including $120,000, which contracts, agreements, and/or other instruments shall be subject to the approval of the Director of Libraries, Director of Legal Affairs. So moved.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 9 is a resolution authorizing a maintenance agreement with Integrated Precision Systems, Inc. for video surveillance and access control systems, whereas the board has authorized the library to enter an agreement with IPS for annual support services to the library's security cameras and access control systems beginning every year, beginning in 2015. And whereas in December 15, 2022, the board authorized the library and into an agreement with IPS for support services for security cameras and access control systems in an amount not to exceed $69,640 for the period January 1, 2023 through December 31. Whereas the library desires to again enter into a support agreement with IPS for the library's video surveillance and access control system for all locations, including the Phase 1A and 1B locations that were not included, closed and not included in the previous year's contract for the period commencing January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2024, at a contract amount not to exceed $85,634.20. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the board hereby authorizes Executive Director, CEO, or designee to enter into an agreement with Integrated Precision Systems, Inc. for support services for the library's security cameras and access control systems in the amount not to exceed $85,634.20 for the period commencing January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2024, subject to the approval of Director of Legal Affairs, with the expenditure being charged to 129-30053-53340 building maintenance. So moved.
Second.
And the observation, the increase is because of the number of branches involved now, correct? Largely.
It is. I'm filling in for Director Goins here a little bit. This contract is always a shared between property management and protective services. But yeah, as indicated, it's a 23% increase in cost, which feels like a lot until you consider that we reopened 5 buildings in 2023 and have 3 more projected in 2024. And the new buildings have substantially more cameras and devices than the older buildings. And it's so important to keep the software current.
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Yes.
Exhibit 10 is a resolution, as soon as it comes up, authorizing transfer of funds from the general fund to the building repair fund and to the debt service fund, whereas revised code section 3375.40L provides for the set aside of unencumbered general fund balances at the end of each fiscal year, whereas that code section 5705.14 provides for the transfer and advance of funds from the general fund to other funds. And whereas the estimated December 31, 2023 general fund unencumbered balance is as follows: certified revenue through to estimate unencumbered balance as of January 1, 2024 of $24,778,873.97. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the general fund unencumbered balance, the set aside of $7 million, that from the general fund unencumbered balance, the set aside of $7 million to be transferred to the building repair fund for capital and technology improvements and other capital projects that include the repair, renovation, and construction of libraries buildings, and that the set aside of $3,236,624 for debt service payments be transferred to the debt service fund in January 2024, and the remaining general fund unencumbered balance be carried forward for operating expenses. So moved.
Second.
This is what we do every year at this time. And
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we assess our unencumbered balance, and this will do 2 things. It will transfer $7 million from the general fund to our building and repair fund this year, and that will allow us to maintain our sustainability and also fund the Glenville branch, which is being funded out of the building and repair fund. And it will also transfer from the general fund to our debt service fund, our debt service payment for 2024.
Ms. Shakarian?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon?
yes,
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Fryer?
Yes.
And Mr. Parker?
Yes. Hey,
and
Phil.
Exhibit 11, the 10th Amendment.
Phil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was our money from Mandel involved in this same process?
Yeah. The $3 million is a part of the overall budget for the Glenville Library. So the Glenville Library is $8 million, and then the $3 million is in the funding for the budget of the building.
I know Kevin Conwell was talking about how much money he was getting and who he wanted to partner with. Is this the same money?
Hold on, Shanice is coming to speak at the microphone.
Hi, Trustee Harrison. Yes, you are exactly correct. We literally, John Lang and I just sent Councilman Conwell information on the cost, the budget for the branch. We also sent him information on the renderings, and we actually presented a couple of weeks ago at his neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
And he's gonna.
I was just trying to find out what his commitment was.
You meaning the councilman?
Yeah.
Well, he's supportive.
Yes, he's very supportive. He wanted to get that information so he can put it in his newsletter.
And it's my understanding that he's on.
That's why marriages fail, because the partnership is not equal.
Just one second. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
So Exhibit 11 is our traditional year-end 10th amendment to the year 2023 appropriation. Whereas Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.40 provides the amendment of appropriation measure when necessary, whereas now deemed necessary to amend the year 2023 appropriation measure, which complies with the amended official certificate of estimated resources requested from the Cuyahoga County Budget Commission on December 14, 2023, whereas the aggregate of all appropriation classifications does not exceed the total amount submitted to the Cuyahoga County Budget Commission. Now therefore be resolved that the sums indicated in the attached 10 amendment to the year 2023 appropriation schedule be approved. So moved.
Second.
And
Mr. Carey?
well, I was just going to ask Carrie a question if I could. What are the biggest changes from what we were expecting here?
The main highlight is the appropriation decrease in the general fund. So we're decreasing our salaries and benefits by 1.1 million. We're adding $40,000 to our miscellaneous category. And we are also including that transfer that you just approved in the previous resolution will be appropriated to the building and repair fund. So that's the main appropriation amendment for the general fund.
Ms. Shakarian?
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Fryer?
Yes.
And Mr. Parker?
Yes.
And I always like to point while we're getting close to a milestone, we're for the first time in a long time at 99 million is our amended certificate. So gives you some idea of the size and importance of what we do here. So, and the balance, I'm sorry, there is an Exhibit 12. The Exhibit 12 is a resolution for the expenditure, hold on a second, the annual appropriation measure for year 2024. Whereas the Ohio Revised Code, Section 5705.38 through 5705.39 provide for the passage of an appropriation measure not to exceed certified estimated resource. And whereas the appropriation totals on the attached schedules do not exceed the amended official certificate of amendment of resources requested by the Budget Commission dated December 14, 2023. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the year 2024 appropriation measure in the amount of $71,236,216.90 for the general fund and listed amounts for the other funds be approved as detailed in the attached schedules. So moved.
Second.
And maybe explain the placeholder thing just so we understand that.
That is in our certificate of estimated resources because we have not received our official amended certificate from the Budget Commission yet. That aligns with their Schedule A. We haven't received that yet, and we also haven't received our certified public library fund that's due by the end of December from the Ohio Department of Taxation. I'd also like to bring to your attention that in the general fund appropriation, it does include the transfer out that the board just approved of the $3.2 million to the debt service fund, which inflates it to just over $71 million. But we have also allocated 67% to our salaries and benefits and 12% to our library materials to align our resources to stay with our priority with operating with excellence. And then in our special revenue funds, we are appropriating over $10 million. And again, in our debt service fund, we are appropriating our debt service payment of almost $3.3 million for our phase one FMP project. And then in our capital fund, we're appropriating over $8.7 million, which does include the Glenville branch. And in our endowment funds, just about $189,000 for a total appropriation of all funds of almost $93.5 million.
And our special revenue funds reflect about 10 million of that.
Yes. And they're itemized on the attachment.
And you've seen in the Plain Dealer recently that the county budget stuff is behind on a lot of their things. It's not just this certificate they've not given us, but they're late on sending the tax bills this year and everything else. So
Yeah.
I'm afraid new county executive Chris Renane walked into a maelstrom of failure by the prior administration on some of this financial stuff, and I think he's got a lot of catching up. So I wish him well. It's not easy. So it's certainly not the way we play finances here at the library. So we appreciate Carrie and all that you guys do, your staff does.
Thank you.
Yes, we do.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Finally, only the remaining reports do not require votes. It's the fiscal officer's report, Report A, report on investments, Report B, report on conference and travel expenditures, Report C, report on all vendor expenditures, Report D, report on expenditures made from the owner's contingency fund for the Huff, Jefferson, West Park, Woodland Central Distribution Facility, Lorraine, Eastman, MLK Junior, Brooklyn, and Rockport branches, and report on expenditures made from the owner's contingency fund for the high-density shelving project, Report F. So moved. I'm sorry, so concludes the Finance Committee. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Trustee Corrigan. We're now going to move into the Human Resource Committee report. Trustee Fryer will be reviewing that with us.
Perfect. Exhibit 13 is a regular employment report with, if I calculated correctly, 44 new hires, 5 rehires, 13 internal movements, 7 resignations, 4 terminations, 0 retirements, and 10 compensation changes. Anything to note?
Just this is the result of the November hiring blitz, where HR partnered with the Public Services leadership team back there to really focus on public services staff to get them to get the branches up to appropriate staffing levels.
How have the transitions been for the new staff? And I know the older staff, this is hopefully giving them a little bit of breathing room as well. Is that starting to notice tension leaving the room?
Let's ask Michael Dowley
Yes.
or Chris. Chris, you and Michael both could go.
I'm just asking. Well, it seemed like everybody was so tense. There was a lot of tension. at
Well,
staff.
they're also just coming out of orientation. They're going through a pretty comprehensive orientation,
Yeah.
bookends training. So they're just kind of beginning to come out of that.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited. And I'm
I
sure-
have a question.
Yes.
Where are we with our interns?
With interns,
Yeah, we got them all?
I'm trying to think. I think we maybe have 1 intern on staff right now. And I know information technology is in the process of potentially identifying an additional intern.
I
One
think you mean
time we had a conversation about putting interns in each one of the libraries. Where are we with that?
No, I think Trustee Harrison, you mean we needed a big increase in our pages, right?
Our
And so
pages, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and getting our pages and our 25-hour pages and things like that. A good portion of these folks are. Go ahead.
Well, we did a page hiring blitz in August, I believe, where we hired an enormous amount of pages, most of which remain. That was also the time that we introduced the new page 2 classification, which allows pages to work 25 hours, but also the page ones continue to work the 12 to 17 hours.
Right.
And then in that offering that page 2 classification, I would say made it much easier to recruit pages because people in today's employment environment are more interested in more hours than that 12 to 17.
Yeah, we also increased the rate of pay, didn't we?
Correct. The page twos are at $15 an hour.
I just know that we had about 50 people that we were trying to hire, and I don't know if we were able to do that or not.
I can get you the page hire data. I don't remember it off the top of my head because
Lynn,
we did it a
Lynn.
couple of months ago.
She's got
40? Oh, thank you. Well, let me introduce Althea Johnson and Sasheen Dunford. They lead our recruitment efforts, and Sasheen just reminded me we hired about 40 pages during the page blitz.
Okay, great.
And the motion,
So moved.
second. Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 14 is a resolution for special closings and holidays in 2024. Whereas the Cleveland Public Library desires to keep the public informed of its hours of operation, and whereas the Cleveland Public Library will be closed in 2024 in observance of the following holidays and special closings as listed below, which include New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. Resolved that the proposed schedule be approved by the Library Board of Trustees to become effective immediately. So moved.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 15 is a resolution approving non-bargaining unit pay structure. Whereas on July 6, 2021, the Board of Library Trustees approved the current non-bargaining unit pay structure and approved revisions to Section 351 of the Human Resources Manual titled Total Compensation, which set forth the library's philosophy concerning non-bargaining unit compensation. And whereas guidelines developed by the Human Resources Department to implement the new pay structure provide that the library will periodically collect and analyze market data and will adjust pay ranges as warranted in order to align with market and economic conditions. And whereas with the assistance of a consultant, the library benchmarked approximately 50 non-bargaining and bargaining unit positions. The results of the benchmarking indicated that the market in Northeast Ohio has moved approximately 10% since 2019 through 2020, the last time that a comprehensive benchmarking analysis was conducted. And whereas despite the movement in the market, an analysis of actual incumbent salaries to average market data indicate that CPL salaries remain competitive for both non-bargaining and bargaining unit classifications. And whereas the Chief Talent Officer recommends that a 2% adjustment be implemented for 2024, which the library administration estimates to be sufficient to provide competitive pay ranges for non-bargaining classifications and to provide flexibility for the library to manage incumbent compensation and to attract new talent. Now therefore be it resolved that the Cleveland Public Library Board of Trustees hereby approves the proposed pay structure attached to this resolution as Exhibit A to become effective December 22nd, 2023, and instructs the library's Chief Talent Officer to be responsible for implementing and administering the new pay structure. So moved.
And I'm happy to answer any questions on this if you have any.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 16 is a resolution authorizing new employment agreement with the Director of the Cleveland Public Library. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Cleveland Public Library unanimously and proudly selected Felton Thomas Jr. as its choice for Executive Director, CEO of the Cleveland Public Library on December 18, 2008, and approved a 3-year employment agreement on January 22, 2009. And whereas on February 16, 2012, January 15, 2015, and December 20, 2018, this board unanimously approved subsequent employment agreements with Director Thomas, extending his employment as Executive Director, CEO of the Cleveland Public Library through December 31st, 2023. And whereas the board is enthused and looking forward to the continued leadership, and energy that Felton Thomas Jr. has brought to the Cleveland Public Library as its executive director. The board notes that since the beginning of his tenure, the director has successfully stewarded the library through 2 tax levy campaigns, its 150th anniversary, and has successfully led the library through the challenging times brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. The board further notes that the library has been the recipient of a 5-star rating from the Library Journal 10 times during the director's tenure. As the library continues to work on its facilities master plan and People's University 2030 strategic plan, this board wishes to retain the leadership and talent that Felton Thomas Jr. brings to this institution and to provide him the support and assistance necessary so that he can implement his vision for the CPL of the future. And whereas based upon all the foregoing, the proposed increased salary for the executive director pursuant to this resolution will place the director's salary in accord with those of leaders of similar public institutions nationwide. And now therefore be it resolved that the library hereby authorizes the annual salary of $297,000 for the executive director, effective the pay period that includes January 1st, 2024, with annual merit-based increases within the range budgeted for other non-bargaining unit staff for that calendar year. A discretionary annual bonus of up to 5% of the director's annual compensation based on the library's achievement of goals or milestones related to the People University's 2030 strategic plan, and a payout of 100% of vacation time and 75% of sick time upon expiration or termination of the agreement. And be it further resolved that the board declares that the annual reimbursement of up to $1,200 by the library for professional networking and membership expenses, such as developing connections with potential donors and other individuals and organizations who may be able to provide support to the library, is a proper public purpose. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Cleveland Public Library directs and authorizes the President of the Board of Trustees to execute a new employment agreement with Felton Thomas Jr. in substantially the form of the agreement attached to this resolution. So moved.
Second, I also would like to add, the director has not only had a strong strategic vision, also he is so involved with the community and his engagement with the community and everything that he has done that I specifically approve this 100%, if not even more. And I know that he will fulfill this 5-year commitment and put us in a good position for the years to come.
I'd like to add that whenever I go in the community, they tell me, whatever you do, don't lose Felton. And it's testament to not only his character and his work ethic, but it's important that a leader also bring about a certain, how can I say, add to wherever he or she works because of their character. Cleveland Public Library is a proud institution, and it's only befitting for it to have a director who has the type of character and personality and respect that Felton has. His respect, your respect level is very high in the marketplace, and we're proud to have you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
you can wake up any time of morning on Channel 8 and find Felton. I've been trying to keep him out of my bedroom for a long time. And you guys probably discussed this, but I saw him yesterday. A young lady was doing digital and making toys and all that kind of stuff. And she was real represented. You know who I'm talking about, Phil?
Susie.
Good job.
She did a wonderful job.
Yes, she did.
I just want to add that nobody remembers.
Tom, I was not
Yeah.
finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is not the courtroom, Tom. If it is, I'm the judge. I just want to tell you thank you for listening at some things that we needed to put our fingers on. and making sure that the library is in a position as Pastor Anthony has just said. We got some ways that we need to go, and everybody acknowledges that. The only one problem that I do see with that whole resolution, and that is Clarence Thomas says he doesn't make as much money as you make. So have a wonderful day. Okay, Tom.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in, and those of us like John and I who can understand longevity, when we picked Felton back in 2008, the one little bit of controversy there is, isn't he awfully young to be heading such an important institution? And we're very, very glad that youth has meant that we're going to have him for another 5. So I'm glad.
Trustee Corey.
Well, I will say one other thing, and I haven't had a chance to talk since I have not been myself lately. But one of the biggest conversations that went on in that room to select the director was, yeah, he's too young, but also he's never been the director before. And I remember saying, and Tom could attest to that, and Obama never been a president before either.
Exactly what we said.
So I'm very, very pleased with where we're going.
Thank you.
Well, that's good company.
Thank you. Michael?
Mr. Carey,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Ms. Rika,
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 17 is the resolution authorizing agreement for applicant tracking system. Whereas the Cleveland Public Library continues to recruit in a very competitive job market and filled more than 250 positions during 2023. And whereas the library's Human Resources Department has determined that it would be advantageous to obtain an applicant tracking software system to provide a more reliable experience for applicants and manage the recruitment and onboarding efforts more efficiently and effectively by reducing numerous manual processes. And whereas the Human Resources Department met with representatives from 4 different applicant tracking system vendors to evaluate the features and costs of the various systems, with the vendors interviewed as follows: YieldGov, that's correct, ICIMS, Workable, and JobVite. And whereas the Human Resources Department received the following 3 quotes, which for the sake of comparison are shown below as pricing for a 2-year term. ICIMS or ICIMS at $95,000, which requires a 3-year contract. JobVite at $140,700, which includes implementation fee, and Workable at $45,700. The price reflects year-end discount. Whereas the Human Resources Department, in partnership with the IT department, determined that JobVite offers the best applicant tracking system and contains features such as being configurable to the library's specific needs, having the ability to integrate with other enterprise resource planning systems, allowing for multiple workflows, using AI to help identify passive candidates that may be a good fit for a position and inviting them to apply, scheduling interviews, and assisting with new hire paperwork. And whereas the Human Resources Department recommends entering into an agreement with JobVite for their standard package for a term of 2 years at a cost of $63,000 per year for the subscription and a one-time implementation fee of $14,700 for a total cost of $140,700. And whereas this board finds that JobVite's proposed fee is fair and reasonable, and finds that the applicant tracking system will be a useful component in the library's recruitment efforts, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the Executive Director, CEO, or his designee to negotiate and execute an agreement with JobVite, subject to the approval of the Director of Legal Affairs, for a 2-year term subscription for JobVite's applicant tracking system for a total contract amount not to exceed $140,700, which amount should be charged to the general fund account number 115-10053-53710, professional services, and/or 115-10053-53360, computer maintenance. So moved.
Second.
Was this the only one that integrated with our enterprise resource planning of the 3?
So can the director asked me to provide a little bit more information on this, and so I can address that. So just as a brief overview, we may get a little in the weeds here, but kind of current state, The HR department has about 2.5 full-time equivalents that focus on our recruitment efforts. We post positions both internally and externally on multiple websites. And each of those postings is a separate task. Munis, which is our current ERP system, does have an online application tool, but we have had experience and we've gotten a lot of feedback from applicants that there are some intermittent problems with the application system itself, and it's not particularly user-friendly. Most of the other processes to onboard or hire somebody are all done manually or through spreadsheets. So tracking the candidates, corresponding with candidates, forwarding resumes to hiring managers, scheduling interviews, moving candidates from the hire process to the onboarding process. So that's really why we began earlier this year in April to partner with IT to look at a software solution to remove some of these manual processes. So as I said, we began in the spring. We worked with IT to identify the system requirements. Althea, Sasheen, and the rest of the department participated in multiple demonstrations with different applicant tracking vendors. We obtained quotes from 3 of the shortlisted companies. NeoGov didn't meet our system's requirements, so we did not get a quote from them. We completed reference checks and we negotiated the price and the terms of the contract in conjunction with IT. So applicant tracking system, we're getting a little wonky in HR, but just to give you a brief overview of what an applicant tracking system does, this particular system is going to allow us to scan resumes for keywords, such as skills or trades. And nowadays, like when people go on Indeed, it's very easy to just say, apply. Most candidates aren't qualified. They're not meeting the qualifications. We have to read through all the resumes in our current system, where JobBite will really do the keyword scan so we can say, oh, somebody has an MLIS. It's going to pull it out like that. It'll allow us to have email templates to ensure that all correspondence with candidates is consistent and professional. Right now, we kind of acknowledge an applicant, but it's not easy to really kind of interact with applicants, certainly keep them apprised of you were not selected for an interview or what have you. This system will allow us to do that a lot more efficiently. It is going to provide us analytics and reporting, which we don't have. This will allow us, how many people are coming through Indeed? How many people are coming through the CPL website? How many people are coming through, say, a PLA posting? So it'll give us a lot more data in terms of where we're actually getting good candidates. The integration piece, this is the only of the 3 systems that we looked at that will be able to fully integrate with an ERP system. We are not in the immediate future going to integrate it with Munis because, as you recall, we're working with GFOA to look at a potentially new ERP system. But the other 2 systems we look at are not configurable. They don't give us the flexibility for like an internal versus an external hire process, and they don't have the integration capabilities that JobBite has. Going on, you can just see a couple things. I mean, it'll help us schedule interviews, reschedule, send reminders, and it'll provide a dashboard for both recruiters and hiring managers. They'll be able to go into a specific posting and kind of go, these ones we're not dealing with. These ones are set up for interview. An offer was made. So both hiring managers and HR will have a dashboard. So as we reviewed the process, iSIMS, it's a basic system. It is not configurable. We couldn't like have a different workflow of how we work with an internal versus an external candidate. One of the disadvantages of a system like iSIMS is it requires somebody to set up a profile, a candidate to set up a profile. And some of the HR data from the Society for Human Resource Management suggests when you have to make a candidate go through setting up a full profile, more than 75% stop. They just won't go through all of that. And iSIMS requires you to do that. We wanted to engage in a 2-year contract because we are in this GFOA process. So we didn't want to be like kind of tied to a 3-year. Workable was the second system we got a quote for. It's obviously much less expensive, but it's designed for small businesses, not nearly anything the size of the library. It is not configurable at all. It's really an off-the-box kind of program. And then JobBite. which is a sophisticated system, but perhaps what an additional attractive feature is they have a component called a candidate relationship management capability, which none of the other systems do. That's that AI technology that is mentioned in the resolution. If somebody applies for, say, a children's librarian and they're kind of in the system showing an MLIS, they actually have maybe a lot of acquisitions experience. Just by us having them in the system, we will be able to go in and search like, oh my gosh, there's a candidate from 2 years ago that had acquisitions experience. But now we can go in and go out and contact them. Might you have an interest in applying for an acquisitions librarian position?
I have two questions.
Mhm.
And I know the contract is for 2 years, but is the information that is obtained during the 2 years ours?
Yes. We made
So
sure
we
in
could
terms
go
of the
back in
contract, if we
the
ever,
third year and get that information from,
even if we left,
okay. that was
even if
my
we
one.
left, we will own the data that is contained in the system.
Yeah. And have we had any comments, or is there any other agencies the size of ours that have used any of these, and what has any feedback? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Review, yeah.
Or any
The
reviews?
references-
Yeah, references.
We did references.
Okay.
We did not speak to other libraries, but we spoke to other organizations that use JobVite. And actually, some of those references, one of them specifically actually talked about, they had purchased Workable and moved away from Workable into
Okay.
JobVite.
So we've had some decent reviews.
Mhm.
Okay, that was my two things, because I know this has been a big thing of mine,
Yeah,
so.
it's, we're hoping.
You wish you had it a year ago, I'm sure.
We do, and it'll take several months to implement. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's going to take an implementation phase, but on that slide, you can just see why we're recommending JobVite. We know it is an expensive system, certainly more, but we do think it's just its capabilities, its ability to customize, and its ability to integrate with other systems warrants the higher cost.
And once we pass the resolution, and I'm sorry, because this really has been a thing of mine, when will they begin?
So we will begin it, the contract hopefully will be executed by the end of the year. It is about a 5-month implementation plan. So we plan to begin implementation in January or start working with JobVite to put that implementation calendar together.
I am concerned about the AI component, but that's going to be part of any of these programs now.
It's gonna be
And
life.
Perspective
Yeah.
of, just making sure that the DEI lens is on our hiring. I mean, I don't know how much data goes in about, current hires as you do the implementation, but I think we have to be really careful about not making mistakes based on past practices too.
Yeah, and I may have skipped over a slide but I actually took it out. There is a DEI component to JobVite. There is something that kind of assists us with removing unconscious bias in terms of looking at the applicants. So that hiring managers and so on and so forth won't necessarily be looking at any of the demographic data that they shouldn't.
Yeah, good.
2 follow-up questions. One, I would be curious, certainly as we get more into the implementation phase, on what measures we'll be taking to get data and feedback from users on user ability and their experience to kind of inform improvements of the process. And the second, as you mentioned, really being able to leverage the data over time with any of these systems, it's not as helpful depending on the quality of the resume. And that actually is an equity concern if folks don't actually understand how the technology helps the organization to analyze their candidacy. And so I do think, us being the People's University, there may be an opportunity for education, awareness of job seekers at every age on what this technology does, so that we can actually work to mitigate as much bias and make sure that folks have truly access to the jobs opportunities. Because you'll be surprised, especially folks that have actually been senior level positions and throughout their career, they've never had to work on their resume over like a decade or so, they might not think of all those accolades and to have actually the outcome data and all those certifications that actually the ATS is going to pull to alert you of their candidacy. So if they don't make it to a field where they're, or to a stage where they're having a conversation, we could actually be missing out on top talent. And so I think that's something for us to consider, how we can share with folks how to actually make the most
Mhm.
of the technology.
Okay, thank you.
It's a great point.
President,
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes, sir.
this is your dream come true. You've been working on it for the last 3 years. But it has more in it than I thought that it would even be discussed at this time.
Yes.
And I'm quite sure that it'll work. Has anybody thought about putting this kind of activity as part of somebody's job description or department's job description so that we can institutionalize the processes so if somebody happens to leave, we still have the ability to access the system?
Yeah.
Yeah, external people will definitely have the ability to access the system.
No, I think it's talking about Sasheen and Althea. Who's ultimately going to be responsible to make this work?
Those two fine ladies, along with our third member of recruitment staff, and we also have somebody in the department whose almost sole focus is working on Munis and this system. So she's called our Human Resource Information Systems Coordinator. Would you ladies like to add anything? Or?
I would just probably add that we also have.
If you're going to add, then you got to walk.
Well, tell Ms. Johnson that we're not expecting a raise.
Here she goes.
I'll take that under consideration. I was just going to add that we worked with IT and they sat in with demos throughout this and we started earlier, maybe in April with them. So they've also been a big part of the process. So that's it.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to get this off the ground.
Us too.
Yes, yes. Well, yes.
And the vote, Ms. Shakarian?
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Fryer?
Yes.
And Mr. Parker?
Yes.
And the final exhibit is.
I think everybody's happy about this. This has been a long time coming.
The final exhibit is Exhibit 18, a resolution amending Human Resources Manual, whereas pursuant to Section 123.1 of the Human Resources Manual, the Board of Library Trustees must approve all changes to the Human Resources Manual, and whereas the Library's Human Resources Department is in the process of conducting a comprehensive review and revision to the Human Resources Manual to reflect the prevailing practices in today's workplaces, and whereas the Library's Human Resources Department recommends that the Human Resources Manual be revised to include an updated Section 210 titled Library Classifications and Employee Status as set forth in Exhibit A to this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Library Trustees hereby approves the proposed revisions to the Human Resources Manual as attached to this resolution to update Section 210 of the Human Resources Manual with the updates to Section 210 becoming effective December 22nd, 2023, and instructs the library's management to be responsible for implementation and execution of the provisions of these policies and their related procedures. So moved.
And I would just add, the reason we're modifying this is with the introduction of the page 2 classification that we talked about a couple of minutes ago. This clarifies that page 2 classification is not considered a regular part-time classification, which would make them eligible for benefits and paid time off. So that's why this clarification is put forth.
Perfect.
Ms. Shakarian?
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Fryer?
Yes.
And Mr. Parker?
Yes.
That concludes the Human Resources Committee report.
Thank you, Trustee Fryer. Trustee Parker, please, with the Community Service Committee report.
Yeah, I think just before that, I want to tell the director, thank you. Last Sunday, you participated in the national, part of the giving campaign for our International Sunday School Department for the Churches of God in Christ. And he was on that. It was broadcast nationally through a couple of platforms. And he represented the library well as they were discussing the importance of Sunday school for youth. And he brought a great perspective as now, I told him my phone's been ringing on because we want to start a national campaign to get libraries involved with Sunday school classes. Yeah, I want to thank him. It was awesome. I also want to say that I forget where I was walking, but I was stopped to give him a compliment. They told me that the Fleet Library has the best customer service ever.
Oh, nice.
And I forget who said it to me, but I took the compliment.
Yes, you
Here,
did.
here.
I said we do our best, but please get the word out to Fleet Library staff that their customer service is really appreciated.
Hey, Anthony, you know what, could I add to what you were talking about speaking at a national level? I've traveled a little bit doing library work and internationally and nationally. I'm just getting me a shirt that said, I know Felton. Because for that to take place, for the director to go out there nationally, it is nothing but a phone call for him. I've been places and the first thing they say, they don't care what my name is do you know Felton? So even when I was in Argentina, I met lovely directors from all over the world. They all knew him. So your mission and what you're trying to do, it will be nothing but a phone call for him because he knows them all.
No, but I mean, it's the thing about it is
Easy.
Trustee Parker is the one that's bringing everybody to Cleveland.
There you go.
I was surprised at how everything is Cleveland, faced. I think we have an opportunity to do something that no one else in the country has done.
That's it, and to get kids all over the
Yeah.
nation reading.
Yes.
I think there's a team out there.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome that you're doing that as well. Thank you.
We have the monthly activity report that is part of Report G for everyone to peruse and to look at. Very interesting information. We want to go in our order. I don't know if there's anything else about the building status update, but if there is, I'm going to come, and then immediately after that, the advocacy task force update, followed by the foundation update, then diversity, equity, inclusion update just come right now.
Thanks, Trustee
Thank you.
Parker. I'll try to keep this short. So as you all know, our facilities master plan has been focused on our 27 neighborhood branches. And as hard as it is to believe, we're entering year 5, the final year of Group 1. And Carrie is already pre-planning a bond issuance for Group 2 in 2025, which will take us to 2030. For those of you who haven't looked at the FMP recently, it talks about investing in our institutional core, the main branch building and the LSW at Louis Stokes Wing as a Group 3. But we know we can't wait till 2030 to make some important investments in our institutional core. So just quickly, the main branch building, as most of you know, was designed by acclaimed local firm Walker & Weeks. It was constructed in 1925 as part of the group plan conceived by Daniel Burnham. So we'll be celebrating the 100th birthday of the main building next year. The number of projects we're working on, some of them you've heard of before because you approved our design partner selections. Some of them you will hear as we bring contracts to board. Some of them might even be below the board threshold, but I just want to make an awareness. So things we're working on outside of the FMP. We'll be renovating the LSW lower level patron restrooms. We are considering lighting enhancements and gate landscape improvements to the Eastman Reading Garden. We are finished with design and ready to bid the main employee cafe and catering finishing kitchen on the lower level of the main building. We are looking at restoration and preservation of the main building facade, both the masonry and the brass at the main entrance. We are working on light renovations to the former bookstore, which will now be Studio 525 for our students, and the Tech Central 2.0 renovations. We'll be replacing the roof on the LSW on the Louis Stokes Wing. And we're looking at a refresh of the 10th floor, including carpets throughout the floor, office and boardroom renovations. So just some things that we're working on now and that you'll be hearing more about over the course of 2024.
Are we going to do some type of celebration for the 100th anniversary of Maine?
Of course.
I love that.
Because that's what we do. We celebrate. So, yeah. But No, it'll be 100 for that main building.
For the main.
Yeah, but
Okay.
we'll celebrate throughout. So
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
have
yeah,
a whole
yeah.
set of things we'll be bringing.
It's for the advocacy report, as a result of our lobbyist, we got our update on legislation and bills and policies that are happening down at the General Assembly before the holiday season. I think the one to note is that the property tax policy discussion is going to continue in 2024, but there hasn't been anything significant at this point, other than what was initially presented in committee. And then the Director Thomas and I had a really good meeting with Representative Bride Rose Sweeney. She's such an ally for public libraries, and we just continue to cultivate and solidify that relationship and all our relationships with our local delegation. As far as the foundation report is, thanks to those who were able to attend the holiday reception. It's part of Trustee Rodriguez and Director Thomas's vision to bring our library board together with the Foundation Library Board and CMSD Library Board. So we can begin to solidify our relationships, build rapport, and leverage our resources to better help the community. And we just sent out our end of year appeal. We're getting those last minute dollars in. We're super excited about that. Director Thomas, I think you got the email about Eaton, which we've been trying to work on a relationship with them for a long time. And so they are coming into the fold and they want to adopt a library and do good work with them. So we got that news today and we're super excited about that. And then the final thing is in January, Director Thomas would like me to present a full year in review report of all the fundraising that took place this year. We'll talk about the goals for next year, and then a comprehensive Cleveland Reads report will be with me and my fellow colleagues next month.
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. As I conclude my fourth quarter DI updates on partnerships, I have 3 to report on. Kimberly Campo, you may remember Kim and her salsa performance during Hispanic Heritage Month at our Fulton campus. Kim is a professional dancer, formerly a performer with Cleveland Dancing Wheels Ensemble. Paralyzed from the waist down due to an accident in 2015, Kim challenges perceptions about what it means to have a disability and what it means to be a performer with a disability. Now Kim works independently as a musical performer, and I'm pleased to announce that CPO will continue to build upon this relationship as she's been invited back to perform at next year's Three Kings celebration, Thursday, January 4th at 4:30 p.m. at our Fulton campus. On Thursday, February 15th, 2024, at our MLK campus, CPL's Black ERG, Berg, will host its first natural hair event in support of the Crown Act entitled The Crown, the Art of Black Hair. Joining us at this event will be 2 new developing partners, Dr. Tamika Ellington and Dr. Angela Che. A native Clevelander from the Cleveland Glenville neighborhood, Dr. Ellington has vivid memories of spending time at our Glenville campus where she attended etiquette class and admits incorporating many of the skills she learned there into her work ethic today. Dr. Ellington will serve as our keynote speaker for this event and is an award-winning author, Black beauty activist, and women's confidence coach. Dr. Che, Angela Che, is the founder of Multicultural Skin and Hair and Dermatology located in our Shaker Heights community. She will also give a presentation where she will take a deep dive into natural hair, kinky, curly, straight, hair loss, how textures evolve, and how to maintain healthy hair and skin. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Crown Act, it prohibits discrimination, race-based discrimination on hair as it relates to employment and education. The Crown Act has not passed in Ohio, but it has passed in several cities here in Ohio, which includes, we have Cleveland Heights, we also have Cincinnati and in Akron, but it is not passed here in Cleveland. So it is very near and dear to members of Berg, so we hope you all can come out and join us as well.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Yes.
the mayor.
Yeah.
Why hasn't it passed? Who was it presented to?
It's actually a bipartisan bill. It's supported, it's House Bill 178. It's come up twice and it hasn't been approved. So the last time it was brought to the House was, I believe, in July of this year. So they are going to bring it back to the House again. I'm not sure exactly why. I think part of the reason why it hasn't been approved by the House is because it's coupled with a number of different things in the bill. So for that reason, people haven't approved it, unfortunately.
If this is important to us, we have a lobbyist.
Yeah, we can have that conversation. I think first is the discussion with why it hasn't passed in the city of Cleveland. So that is the starting point, so.
Well, that concludes the Community Services Committee report. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you so much, Trustee Parker. At this time, there is no old business. For new business, we have the election of the nominating committee for the 2024 library officers. I move to select the nominating committee and designate Trustee Anthony Parker as the chair, with Melanie Shakarian and Tom Corrigan to serve as members on the committee.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Fryer,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
I don't think there is no public comment at this time. I don't think anything was
Is there
submitted. There is, okay, there is.
Good afternoon. There's no further public comment. There was one that was submitted after the week after the November board meeting, and that was forwarded to HR.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, I can't vote now.
And we'll keep it noted that it has been forwarded to HR. There's no further questions, or I move this meeting to be adjourned. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone. Oh, and I brought some empanadillas and rice that I made.
Oh.
Maritza made them. Yes.